This week on 0 Days Since Nonsense, I have nothing to hide. The official motto of every person who has never checked what apps have access to their location, microphone, camera, search history, and the moment they Googled is chest pain, anxiety, or death at exactly 2:17 in the morning. And look, I get it. Most of us are not international spies. Most of us are not hiding a secret volcano lair. Most of us are not doing anything interesting that a guy in a black hoodie is sitting in a dark room saying, "Enhance the grocery list." But privacy isn't only about hiding something bad. Privacy is about control. It's about context. It's about not handing every app, advertiser, and random company with a growth team a scrapbook of your life and hoping they use it responsibly. Because they won't. Not every company is evil, but some are. A lot of them are just careless, hungry for data, and weirdly confident that the personalized experience is worth knowing where you sleep. So today, we're talking about why I have nothing to hide is not a security strategy, why boring data becomes creepy when enough of it's collected, and why privacy matters even if the most suspicious thing you've done this week is eat shredded cheese directly out of the bag at midnight, which for legal reasons, I've never done. Now, this episode isn't going to be delete every app, throw your phone into a lake, move to the woods, and communicate only through trained birds. That's not realistic. We live online now. Banking is online, work is online, shopping is online. Your toothbrush probably has analytics. I don't know. I'm scared to check at this point. The goal is not to disappear from the internet. The goal is to stop being so casual about the pieces of yourself you give away. Because that's what data is. It's little pieces of you. Your location, your habits, your contacts, your searches. One piece of data might not matter, but 1,000 little pieces start to tell a story. And the problem is that you don't always get to decide who reads that story. The biggest issue with I have nothing to hide is that it treats privacy like it only matters if you did something wrong. And that's not how privacy works. You probably closed the bathroom door, right? Not because you're committing bathroom crimes. Well, hopefully not. You close the door because privacy is normal. You don't need to justify it. Same thing with your phone. You may not be hiding anything criminal, but that doesn't mean you want your entire search history read out loud at Thanksgiving. Privacy is not about being guilty. Privacy is about boundaries. And for some reason, the second we talk about digital privacy, people act like boundaries are suspicious. If someone followed you around a store with a clipboard writing down everything you looked at, how long you stood there, what aisle you walked down, and whether you looked tired, you probably say, "What the heck?" But when an app does it, we call it analytics. Very normal, very cool. Nothing creepy here. A single data point is usually boring. You went to Target, who cares? You opened the weather app, fine. You bought dog food, congrats to the dog. The problem is not one data point. The problem is when all of these little moments get stitched together. One location ping doesn't mean much. One web search doesn't mean much. But months of data can start showing where you live, where you work, what you care about, where you spend your money, and when you're most likely to be home. That's the mindset shift. Your data might be boring by itself, but in bulk, boring data becomes a map. And that map can be used to advertise to you, manipulate you, scam you, or just make your life worse in ways that are hard to notice until after it happens. So when someone says, "I have nothing to hide," what I hear is, I haven't thought about what someone could do with this boring information about me. And honestly, most people haven't. Because why would they? Normal people are just trying to check the weather without signing a blood contract. Let's talk about data brokers. Because nothing says healthy digital society like an entire industry built around collecting, packaging, and selling information about people who have no idea it's happening. Data brokers are companies that gather information from different sources and build profiles. Some of that data might come from public records. Some might come from apps, loyalty programs, a website with 400 privacy policies nobody read because they were written by a lawyer trying to win a fog machine. And then all that gets combined. Now you're not just a person, you're a profile. Age range, location, income estimate, travel patterns. And sometimes the data is wrong, which is both funny and frightening. Because now a company you've never heard of might have a profile on you, sell that profile, leak that profile, or use that profile to make decisions about you. So not only are you being stalked by a spreadsheet, that spreadsheet might be stupid. And this is where I have nothing to hide really starts to fall apart, because you're not hiding from hackers. You're trying to keep your life from becoming raw material for companies that treat privacy like an obstacle between them and a quarterly revenue goal. And here's where it evolves from just a privacy problem into a security problem. A lot of people picture hacking as someone breaking through a firewall in a hoodie while green code rains down the screen. And sure, sometimes attackers do technical things, but a lot of attacks start with information. Scammers love context. They love knowing where you work, what tools you use, whether you just bought a house, started a new job, because that's what makes the scam more believable. A random text that just says, click this link is easy to ignore, but a text that says, your package from the thing that you actually ordered has a delivery issue hits different. An email from a random person asking for money is obvious, but an email that looks like it came from your boss, references a real project, uses a vendor name you recognize, and asks you to review an invoice? That's not just spam anymore. That's targeted. And the more information attackers can gather, the easier it is to make the scam feel normal. This is why your privacy matters for security. Your data doesn't have to be embarrassing to be useful. It just has to help someone sound convincing. And unfortunately, sounding convincing is a major part of scamming people, which is rude, honestly. Attackers could at least have the decency to make it obvious. Now, most of us don't hand over our data because we woke up and said, you know what would be fun? A surveillance economy. We do it because convenience is powerful. The app asks for location so it can show us nearby stores. The map app asks for location because that one actually makes sense. The food app asks for location so the driver can find you. And then the coupon app asks for location because apparently saving 40 cents on cereal requires a full intelligence operation. Then there are apps that ask for contacts, photos, microphone access, or allow tracking across apps and websites, which is one of those prompts that sounds like it was written by someone trying to get caught. And we click allow because we want the thing to work. That's human. The problem is that allow becomes the default. We stop asking whether the app actually needs permission, and the permission just becomes part of the background noise. A flashlight app does not need your context. A calculator does not need your location. A wallpaper app does not need access to your microphone. And if that grocery store app needs to know my precise location at all times to sell me bananas, I have questions. Convenience isn't bad, but every convenience feature should have to answer one question. What am I giving up for this? I'm going to say that again. What am I giving up for this? Sometimes the trade is worth it, but sometimes it's not. But you should at least know there's a trade. The other thing people forget is that data lasts. You might not care about something today, but future you might care. A photo, a post, a leaked database, a public profile, a forgotten username from 2012 where you were apparently going through some stuff emotionally, all of it can stick around. And what feels harmless right now might not feel harmless later. Maybe you change jobs. Maybe you become a manager. Maybe you have kids. Maybe you just decide that you don't want every website from 10 years ago to still hold pieces of your identity like digital lint. Privacy is not only about protecting who you are today. It's about protecting future you from decisions current you made while you were tired. And current you isn't always a reliable adult. Current you clicks accept all cookies because there's an article behind it and you forgot what you were mad about. Current you grants location access because you're trying to order tacos. Current you signs up for a random website because it promised a 10% discount. Future you is the one cleaning up the mess. So maybe future you deserves a little mercy. Now it's time for this week's recurring segment, Things Security Says. This is where we take completely normal things security people say every day and explain why they sound absolutely insane to everyone else. First up, you should care about privacy. What the user hears is, you should become paranoid and live in a Faraday cage. What security actually means is, please stop giving every app unlimited access to your life just because you ask politely. Next, review your app permissions. What users hear is, please spend your weekend spelunking through settings menus designed by a committee that hates you. What security actually means is, if an app doesn't need your location, contacts, microphone, camera, or photos to function, maybe don't let it have those things forever. Next, don't overshare online. What users hear is, never post anything, delete joy, become a ghost. What security actually means is, maybe don't publicly announce that your house is going to be empty for the next 2 weeks, your kid's school is visible in the background, and your dog's name is also your password hint. Next, private browsing doesn't make you invisible. What users hear is, the computer is lying to me. What security actually means is, private browsing mostly keeps some history off your local device, but it doesn't magically hide you from your internet provider, employer, website, advertisers, or all consequences of your own decisions. And finally, your data has value. What users hear is, you are very special and hackers are obsessed with you personally. What security actually means is, you don't have to be special. At scale, boring data is profitable, searchable, sellable, and useful to people who want to manipulate you. And that's the problem with privacy conversations. Security people say things like data minimization, and everyone falls asleep. But maybe don't let the coupon app know where you sleep sounds like what it actually is. Common sense without a notification badge. Okay, but seriously, privacy does not have to be extreme. You don't have to delete every account, stop using apps, or start wearing a cloak to Walmart. The goal is to reduce unnecessary exposure. Start with the obvious stuff. Check which apps have access to your location, and if they don't need it, turn it off. Protect your email account, because email is the recovery key to half of your life. Be careful what you post publicly. You don't have to stop posting. Just think about whether you're accidentally sharing your own location, routine, workplace, or recovery question answers. Clean up old accounts if you can. Use privacy settings. Not because they're perfect, they're not. But imperfect is still better than every setting is open because I got tired. And maybe, most importantly, stop thinking of privacy as hiding. Think of it as limiting blast radius. If one company gets breached, one account gets compromised, one app gets sketchy, or one piece of data gets exposed, you want the damage to be smaller. That's security. That's privacy. That's not paranoia. That's not wanting your entire life stored in a clearance bin of some data broker server. And key takeaways for this episode are, I have nothing to hide is not a security strategy. Privacy is not about being suspicious. It's about having boundaries. Your data tells a story. Maybe not all at once, maybe not in one place, but piece by piece, app by app, it adds up. Once the data is collected, sold, shared, or leaked, you may not get as much say in what happens next. So don't panic. Don't disappear. Just be less casual. Give apps less access. Lock down important accounts. Think before sharing. You don't need something to hide to want privacy. You just need something to protect. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of 0 Day Sense Nonsense. For this week's audience question, what's the creepiest way an app, website, or ad made you realize that your data was being tracked? Send your answers to ndrtechnet@gmail.com. Again, that's ndrtechnet@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.